Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our third meeting of the 146th Council of the 46th Council of the Corporation of the City of St. Thomas meeting. It's Groundhog Day. For those of you that were out this morning with us, checking with how groundhogs could see their shadow or not, thank you for coming. It's been a very cold day and a very cold winter. We hope it ends soon. Any declarations of interest or disclosures of interest from any of the members? Seeing none, we'll go on to minutes.
I have a motion that the minutes of the meetings held on January the 12th, 2026 be confirmed. Moved by Councillor Herbert, seconded by Councillor Baldwin-Sands.
Questions or comments on the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried.
Council will now resolve itself into committee of the whole to deal with the following business. First committee this evening is Strategic Direction and Development. First item relates to the AMO report, Municipalities Under Pressure 1 year later. I have a motion that report SCSS 0226 relating to the Association of Municipalities report, Municipalities Under Pressure 1 year later, be received for information. Moved by Councillor Reimel, seconded by Councillor Clark.
Questions or comments? Councillor Taylor, then Councillor Reimel. And I see Danielle's rising, so we'll...
Thank you, Your Worship. Danielle, thanks for bringing this report through to us. It is a lot of serious information here. It's some numbers that are staggering as far as I can see. You know, when you see that the report saying that in 2025, 85,000 homeless situation, and that number is going to double, has doubled since 2021. 4 years, we've seen a doubling in that kind of number. And the fact that 300,000 households are on a waiting list for social housing, it seems insurmountable, but I know that you and your department are doing as best you can. And to see the AMO to say that in order for us to get to, I forget how they say it, a fundamentally new approach to a temporary emergency measures and enforcement-based responses, we need another $11 billion. That's a lot of money over the next 10 years for chronic homelessness. And you know what happens every year, things get more expensive. So by the time we get to year 2, that 11 billion is even more. By the time we get to 10 years, is $11 billion sufficient? And the fact that in order to tackle over the next 8 years, we need another $2 billion for encampments and residents that are housed. Anyway, the numbers are just crazy, right? Now, I'm surprised that the AMO has not, their recommendations are that we need to have continued funding, continued federal funding through the National Housing Strategy. But in my mind, what's happening is the upper levels of government are throwing money at us to try to solve the problem. And St. Thomas is doing the best we can, and London is doing the best they can. Woodstock is doing the best they can, rather than the province saying, we need to tackle this. And I don't know how we get that message out there, or whether it's even a message that we want to try to get out there, if that's our job. But just throwing money at the problem and hoping that each of the municipalities can solve the problem on their own, in my mind, doesn't seem like that's the right solution. But I don't know. I'm interested in hearing your comments on, is AMO on the right track of continuing to throw money at the municipalities for us to, what's the title? It's called Municipalities Under Pressure, for us to continue to take the pressure rather than it being upper level governments. What's your thoughts on that? That's what I'm looking for. Thank you.
Ms. Nielsen, great to have you here tonight.
Thank you, Your Worship, and good evening, Council. Thank you very much, Councillor Taylor, for your thoughtful comments and insights on the report. I have to agree with you that the information looked at from a provincial perspective is bleak, and the cost and the efforts that will be required to turn us around are substantial. In my humble opinion, working for the municipality here, I would say to you that it will require the efforts of all 3 levels of government, not only through funding, but through strategic planning, and also through recognizing that homelessness is solvable, but it requires subject matter expertise. This is not the type of social issue where one particular solution or response will do the trick. So what I would share is that municipalities help by being able to provide their local context. That while there is some similarities across municipalities, each municipality is going through its own experiences, has its own local culture. Part of what works really well for us is the incredible political will to solve homelessness that sits here in these chambers. We do require the support of our provincial partners and our federal partners because we certainly can't afford to do this alone on just the tax levy. But that subject matter expertise can come from all levels of government. And I think the solution is really working collaboratively together instead of, for lack of better words, pointing the finger to say the feds aren't doing enough, the province isn't doing enough, the municipality isn't doing enough, when the truth is it requires all three levels of government to move the dial.
Councillor Raimel?
Yes, and thanks, Danielle, for coming. One of the papers on the report said, and it clearly said just what you're talking about, it talks about the integration of housing, health, income, and social service systems across all levels of government is necessary. And I think at least the citizens of St. Thomas would be reassured that the social services in St. Thomas is doing an excellent job of trying to kind of have your fingers like an octopus out there, you know, grabbing all the little pieces of information and trying to put them together and keep on top of everything. And you're doing a great job. I was at the homeless initiative on Wednesday, and you know all the different pieces that you have there in the social services. But also one other piece in the report said, with access to permanent housing constrained, more people remain unhoused for longer periods and spend extended time within homelessness serving systems. And this sustains pressure on systems. And I'd like to you know how I'd like to advocate for a new long-term care facility, but I think sometimes we need to remember that there are seniors in hospitals who are I'd call them homeless. You know, they're waiting for a house and a home in long-term care. The long-term care facility we have in St. Thomas is exceptional to meet the high standards from the Ministry of Health and Long-Term Care is a great challenge. We do a wonderful job here. So, you know, duplicating those services would be certainly something, you know, we would strive for here. And I think the waiting list is 423. The day you open, you would be full, you know. So I just think we need to remember that we've got these seniors in hospital who are waiting for a bed, and that puts increased pressure on the hospital system too, to maintain people or try to keep people in their home. But anyway, just some extra information, but thank you for your work.
Further questions? Councillor Herbert, then Councillor Wookie.
Thank you, Worship. Thanks for the report, Danielle. There's a lot of information there, and I have a comment first, and I'll give you my question. I've noticed that subsidized housing is 1,800 more, doubled since 2020, and I'd come and talk to you about that personally. But my question is, for our municipality here in St. Thomas and area, if you had a crystal ball, when we open up Balaclava, how big of an effect do you think that'll be for our specific area? That's my question.
Thank you very much for your question, Councillor. In context to homelessness, the impact is going to be substantial. And how that's beneficial to us is by addressing the most critical component of our housing crisis and ensuring that people are matched to the needs, the supports that they need. It's going to create capacity for all of us to begin looking upstream. And that upstream work means addressing the affordable housing crisis that our community is experiencing and looking where people are falling through the cracks, much like our seniors in long-term care homes. And I apologize if I sound like a broken record, but I've spoken before about how I used to look at a functional end to homelessness as crossing a finish line. And I now see it as the start line. And that's from having the privilege and benefit of working in a community where we're close enough to actually look at that. And so the impact will be substantial for our homelessness population, which will create space and resources and capacity for us to start swimming upstream. So it makes me hopeful.
Councillor Wookie.
Thanks, Your Worship. Quick question, Danielle. I see that homelessness decreased in St. Thomas Elgin by 6.5% compared to 2024. do you have any separate statistics for St. Thomas and Elgin, or because you're the service provider for both, they're lumped in together? Just wondering what's happening within our municipality. If you don't have that, no problem, and you don't need to look it up, but I just thought that, I don't know if that's separated out. Thank you.
Please,
Thank-
Danny.
Thank you for your question through you, Your Worship. So yes, we do. The answer is yes to both. It's lumped together when we look at that stat where occurrences of homelessness dropped by 6% in 2025 compared to 2024. We also have the ability to tease it out and look at it separately. And it would appear from at least first glances that the reductions are the same in St. Thomas as they are in the county. But I also think it's important to remind council that homelessness data is fluid. It changes regularly. And while ours is quality data, it's only as good as it can get, because a lot of occurrences of homelessness may be hidden or unreported. So it's good data, but it's not perfect data, and it changes all the time.
Danielle, if I could just interject a little too, because you and I talk an awful lot about this, but this AMO report was something pretty substantial. It's a report that started a year ago by the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, and it's not gotten better in the overall sum of AMO. We continue to stand out by having reduction in homelessness, reduction in the visible homelessness, and in a number of other ways. Part of it is because what you just said, our numbers are real. Our numbers are more accurate. They're not perfect, but they're at least more accurate as to what we had to do. And this council, of course, has set forward some 7 years ago to start down the path of homelessness removal, if you will. I'm with you. It's fluid, right? But, and you also know the conversations we have so often, because this winter we're into what as ugly a winter as we can get to. And we have many municipalities around us with people living outdoors, and we don't. And I'm proud that this council made those decisions, that we would be able to do emergency sheltering to a point where we're not living on the streets. Can you share with us maybe some more St. Thomas numbers that I know I ask you a lot. How are we at our emergency shelter on a coldest night of the year? How have we been? We've opened up a warming center at the Thornton Center during the day. What's its uptake been like? And as we move through 2026 and Balaclava is under construction, Eastwood is nearing completion, Tiny Hope is 1/3 completed and will finish by July 1st. What do all those numbers mean to us?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, I'm happy to speak about that, although speaking on behalf of Joe Thornton might be a challenge for me. My basic understanding is that to some extent it's business as usual and available to anyone who has nowhere else to be where it's warm inside until 10 p.m. Our shelter's busy, but it is not turning people away. The leadership at the shelter and I have a very close relationship where I would be notified with time to find solutions if they thought they were nearing a place where they would start to have to turn people away. So we're very fortunate, and I'm grateful to the leadership at the inn for ensuring that their doors can remain open. But they are busy. I spoke with the executive director today, and being a busy environment where now people are inside more than they are outside, it can be challenging, but we're ensuring that the shelter has the resources it needs to be able to continue to operate through this cold weather, provide staff with the support that they need to keep going. And at this point, anyone with nowhere to be after 10 p.m. Who require access to indoor warm space is welcome at the inn.
Okay. Thank you for being, Councillor Baldwin-Sands.
Thank you. My question is just a little bit different, and if I can take you off the hot seat, I will do so and put the question to the CAO. We, as a council in 2022, created a strategic plan, and one of those strong commitments were towards a caring and compassionate community. And on that, with this new information that we have from AMO, is there going to be any changes to our strategic planning moving forward? If I could, this
Go
CAO,
ahead. I'll let Lisa start with that, and I have some views on it too, so go ahead.
Great.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Councillor Baldwin Sands and the balance of council. The new strategic plan is amended to go beyond being just a caring and compassionate community and actually identifies housing for everyone as a priority. As part of this year's planning of the council agenda, every month we'll be focusing on a different element of the strategic plan. And I think in 2 months' time, we'll be looking at that goal of housing for everyone. And that's an opportunity for council to really inform that plan, to look at the KPIs, the key performance indicators, and investigate whether we need to adopt different strategies. On top of that, we're also doing a 10-year or renewal of the 10-year housing and homelessness plan right now. And there's been some community engagement that's happening, and this is the time for the community and members of council to inform that plan.
Danielle, did you have anything you wanted to add to that? Well, I'll just blow your horn just a little bit more if I can, please. It is, a week does not go past without Danielle and I having to be on a phone call with another municipality saying, how are you doing what you're doing? We've been sharing about as much information as we can as to how we got to where we are. But to use a simplistic phrase that I keep using is, you know what the cure to homelessness is? Housing. I mean, and it is that simple, but we've learned by using Indwell that adding mental health and addiction supports to that housing, adding wraparound services to help people back out of homelessness permanently, and to add now under our housing initiatives, a great deal of support to prevent homelessness in the first place too, will make it so that the number isn't growing, it's actually shrinking, and we're heading to where we want to. I don't know where you're off to this week or who I'm talking to this week from a housing point of view, but I know you're not just doing housing in St. Thomas, it seems, anymore, or St. Thomas and Elgin, and we're not just one community. We're being asked by many around us to come and say, how did you do it? How are you getting there? And so we're pretty proud to be able to say it's an alert and aware council that said, let's work on this issue. Housing is a municipal issue. It is our job. But you're right, as Councillor Taylor said, it's also the provinces and the feds' job, and they are as often as not asking us now, if we had this funding, what would you do with it? And that's a really unique place for a municipality to be, and we're there. We're on the cusp of being able to finish our current by names list and then start down a project of affordable housing and seniors housing that goes even steps further. Other communities can't even look at that right now because they're still looking at people living in a tent someplace. And so we continue to try and help them as much as we can too. And thank you for the extra stuff I know you have to do. Are you speaking at EDCO this week? Is that? Yeah, way to go. Let's go speak to the Economic Development Corporation of Ontario about what St. Thomas is doing from a housing and homelessness point of view, because it is an economic matter too. So, perfect. I don't know. Who am I talking to this week? It's next week. There's another meeting with another community. So, further questions or comments on the AMO report and the trials and struggles that some other municipalities are having, in the sense that they're saying, province and feds, please solve our housing problem for us. And when we get to talk to those municipalities, we say, but you're a third of that solution or a quarter of that solution with the other agencies you have in your community on how you can do it together, because housing is a municipal issue. And so that's why we've taken it on in a big way. And I thank you all. We've had a mover and a seconder, and we've had discussion. Any other else on the report? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you, Danielle.
Next item relates to declaration of surplus property on Chestnut Street. I have a motion that report CMO 0726 relating to the declaration of surplus property on Chestnut Street be received for information. And further, the council declare the unaddressed 4th Avenue Chestnut Street properties, roll number 0403900530 and 0403900520 to be surplus to the city. And further, the council direct administration to undertake administrative actions to dispose of the unaddressed 4th 4th Avenue, Chestnut Street properties. Moved by Counselor Gibson, seconded by Counselor Clark.
Questions or comments? Counselor Taylor?
Thanks again, Your Worship. I had discussions with some residents in the area and their concerns where since we lost the Myrtle Street School playground area quite a few years ago, it's now housing, that they were wishing and hoping for more playground area in that area. And they were hoping that maybe we could save this parcel of land and turn it into a parkette of some sort, rather than selling it, maintaining it as a city property and allowing residents in that area to have a place to actually take their children to playground equipment. So I would probably, unless there's a really good reason why we need to sell this property, oppose this sale and request that we take it over as a parkette for the community. Thank you.
And I know we'll talk more about all of that tonight too, but I'll take any other questions or comments. When we declare a piece surplus, and many times in the last little while, it's become a place where we will now build housing or allow another corporation to build housing. Certainly in the Chestnut area, we still have across the road, the full of the Central High School and YWCA and the back end of the St. Anne's School, all is a great big field right across the road from the back of the senior center, basically. But we can, I'm not against, I got to agree with my friend Wookie too. Grab all the parkland you can and turn it into parkland as you can. But also, you know, as I said, one of our primary things is trying to find land we already own that is clean enough to build on to also build housing in our community. So, further questions or comments on the surplus land issue? Seeing none, all those in favor? Are there any opposed? All right, noted. Carried.
Next item relates to declaration of surplus property in 3rd Avenue. I have a motion that report CMO 0526 relating to the declaration of surplus property at 3rd Avenue be received for information. And further, the council declare the unaddressed 3rd Avenue property, roll number 04038020700, and a portion of the unaddressed 3rd Avenue property, part of the roll number at 04038020800 to be surplus to the city. And further, the council direct administration to undertake administrative actions to dispose of the 3rd Avenue lands. Moved by Councillor Herbert, second by Councillor Taylor.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item relates to proposed official plan and zoning bylaw amendments for 417 Wellington Street. I have motion that report PD 0426 relating to the proposed official plan and zoning bylaw amendments for 417 Wellington Street be received for information. And further, that a public meeting be scheduled for March the 9th, 2026 in accordance with regulation 543/06 and 545/06 as amended. Moved by Councillor Kohler, seconded by Councillor Gibson.
Questions or comments? Look, Troy, go ahead, Joan.
Yeah, I was just going to say, well, I guess we'll be having a public meeting on March 9th, which would be good, but I just was surprised to see this because this is our only mall that we have that has a contained walking space in it, you know, not like Walmart and Superstore are kind of standalone stores, but this is, you know, putting a kennel, you know, with noisy dogs or people with allergies. It is a concern to have it in a space like the mall, the only mall really that we have.
Councillor Reimel, I was surprised to see the owners asking for this also, but I've also been a firm believer of those that own the property can kind of decide what will happen in it. Our dogs love going to daycare every now and again, and I'm not sure the mall is a super spot for it or not, but the owner wants us to take a look at it and we'll take it to a public meeting and see it. Lou, or one of the great planning team now all gathered in one spot. Where did this come from? Is this just?
Oh, yeah, through your worship. No, we had a consultation process. The owner of the mall is actively trying to find tenants and doing a great job and working very hard to repurpose the site and also to find new tenants. And he brought forward a potential tenant who was looking for this space. So we had several consultation meetings with him. We raised similar concerns that we've heard from council here tonight. But we explained to them what the path forward would be to get this under the consideration for council, that it did need a zoning bylaw amendment. And that's why they're here. So we're just going through that process.
All right. So it's that step along the way, and then we'll have a public meeting about the use of that site for that. Further questions or comments? Seeing none? All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item relates to proposed draft plan of subdivision and zoning bylaw amendment applications for property on Warehouse Street by Walter Ostojic and Sons. I have a motion that report PD 0526 relating to the proposed draft plan of subdivision 34T26501 and associated zoning bylaw amendment applications for Warehouse Street be received for information, and further that a public meeting be scheduled for March the 9th, 2026 in accordance with Regulation 545/06 as amended. Moved by Councillor Baldwin Sands, seconded by Councillor Taylor.
Questions or comments? Councillor Reimold and Councillor Clark.
I just had one main question about the sewage treatment pond, if there would be any kind of fencing around it, because it is kind of an intense subdivision. Looks like there'd be probably, you know, families and kids. And I just wonder if they had any thoughts about what they would do to kind of secure that stormwater pond.
Too many choices of who to ask a question of. Please.
Thank you, Your Worship, through to Councillor Reimold. That would be something that we could look at through the development approvals process and any subdivision agreements that would be required. Ultimately as well, I know that I guess the city engineer, Mr. Delibek, there may be some other things that could be potentially going on with that parcel as well, given the fact that it would be a city-owned parcel as part of this process. So any sort of safety, security, other measures that would be required as part of that would be considered through that process.
Councillor Clark?
Thanks, Your Worship. I'm just wondering if this motion is defeated. I'm just interested in the process. Are we giving up? What are we giving up? There seems to be so many questions about this one, and at what opportunity, if we move forward with a public meeting, those things still aren't resolved, right? They've just been highlighted, and everybody knows what they are, because you talk about losing the site plan ability to control things. So I'm just worried about, like, if we defeated it and it didn't go to a public meeting, is there an opportunity for your department to continue talking with the developer to clear up some of this gray area before we get to a public meeting? Well, because to me, it's just going to be a waste of time. There's so many things that aren't solved and aren't answered. And the public's going to be asking the same kind of questions we are. And like, to me, it's just, it's almost not needed at this point until we get some answers.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Worship, through to Councillor Clark. I agree. This is part of the reason why last week we did reach out to or spoke with the applicant's agent. And part of the process was to kind of identify some of these issues so that we can have those discussions before the public meeting, so that hopefully they have some answers to some of these things moving forward. Because yes, ultimately, the intent would be to get some more clarity on this so that we can advance it through the process. Ultimately, they've submitted some information that they felt was sufficient to support the application. We've just identified some additional things that we need clarification on, and we're providing that opportunity for them to provide the clarification to us, but also to yourselves as council through that public meeting.
Please go ahead.
Add on, just so through you, Your Worship.
Yeah, normally it's Mr. Pompili who jumps in and adds all the other facts. So I'm really quite honored that you're jumping in tonight, taking his place.
I would just clarify that under the Planning Act, we are obligated to hold a public meeting. And we also have 90 days to make a decision on the application. So I mean, it's in the applicant's interest to make sure that we're informed and have the necessary information to, for council to make a decision on the application. But we effectively, because it's been submitted, it is a complete application. We do have to move forward within the legislative timelines, which does require having the public meeting in short order.
Further, Mr. Pompili, do you have something to add?
Just to pile on with that. So defeating the motion today and not going forward with a public meeting will also could trigger the applicant to appealing it. And it takes it right out of council's hands to deal with, and it could go right to the OLT. So you do run that risk.
Councillor Wookie?
Thanks, Your Worship. Just want to make sure, this is an area that we'd like to have a pathway through there.
Right.
And just want to make sure that the stormwater management pond isn't right over top where, Councillor Wookie wants to ride his bicycle because, I don't want to float through it. But just comments about access to public space behind it, just so everyone can hear. I trust the applicant would want to provide that. But I'd like to hear from you folks. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, through you to Councillor Wookie. Ultimately, yes, as I said kind of earlier with a different response, it is the creation of the stormwater block would be city-owned lands. Again, Mr. DeLebeck may be able to speak more to that. The intent, my understanding is that it's a regional facility that they would need to be municipal access to address the stormwater management pond. And my understanding as well that there is some long-term intent to have some sort of trail system. We don't know as part of some of the ongoing discussions as part of this that some of that area still needs to be kind of resolved with the city and the adjacent landowners. But I'm not too sure if, Mr. DeLebeck wants to kind of add anything to that.
Well, now that he's been asked a couple of times, I'm not going to let him get by without it.
I think it's time for me to chime in then.
Yes.
Through the mayor to Councillor Wookie, yes. So the TMP identified this as an active transportation corridor. And I can say that through the consultation process with the applicant, that's what we're looking to achieve. We installed a tunnel for a purpose, and this is to help facilitate that.
Well, that was going to be my question. So mine's been answered too. Excellent. Perfect. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item relates to proposed zoning bylaw amendment for the property at 57, 59, 65, and 75 Walnut Street. This is a follow-up report. I have a motion that report PD 0626 relating to the proposed zoning bylaw amendment for the properties at 57, 59, 65, 75 Walnut Street be received for information. Moved by Councillor Raimel. Second by Councillor Wookie.
Questions or comments? Councillor Kohler.
Thanks, Your Worship. From the public meeting, a couple of concerns that I was able to talk to some people about and look into. And I know the report here addresses the connection with Church to Talbot and feel that wouldn't benefit things, but I know a lot of the people in the public and many members on council think that it would. So I guess moving forward, maybe something to keep in mind and maybe monitor over the time, especially when it is to completion. But the Director of Environmental Services made some comments when one of the questions were brought up about infrastructure, especially with the water and some potential work that would be required to be done prior to any of that work being addressed. So I guess my concern and some of the public's concern as well is, should we be approving this right now if the infrastructure isn't currently adequate right now in that area? But maybe that could be clarified based on.
Mr. DeLebeck.
Thank you. Through the mayor to Councillor Kohler. Yes, I believe there was some discussion about would another fire hydrant help for fire suppression. And I remember commenting that it's not necessarily the number of hydrants, it's the supply of water. And so the the Center Street reconstruction project that we just completed up to Stanley increased the water main size so that it addresses the supply need for the first little section there on Walnut Street. So that's no longer a concern, and that the reconstruction of Old Talbot Hill, or where the monument is, will help provide looping through the area, which would further provide the supply needed for fire protection in this area.
Okay, so that's addressed that. I thought there was some work that required to be done before any of that other could be, but is that the old Talbot that requires to be done before any of that can be? But there's no issue dealing with this now.
Through the mayor to Councillor Kohler, so I think some of the conversation at that time was about opening up Church Street. And so that's where maybe that might be coming, is that we need to provide a storm outlet down Old Talbot Hill before we can open up Church Street. So that's the sequence of events.
Thanks for the clarification.
And thank you for getting that, because it was discussed at the public meeting. Councillor Herbert?
Thank you, Worship. Well, I think most of us on council remembered when we first started this project on Walnut Street, where we fought it for almost a year and a half, and we ended up losing, costing a lot of money, but we did fight it. But when I'm looking at this report, it's not much different from the report that we got the first time we went into this. We talk about the traffic. I know some of the streets like New and King, I really think this should be addressed somewhere, that there are no sidewalks. There is not a paved road. It's just a little side street where people coming through, and you put a building down there, a new place, that's where maybe these people are going to come through in the daytime. So I think that has to be addressed. And then we talk about connecting Church to Talbot. The public come in, they didn't complain about the building this time. They just asked for a few things. And I think opening up Church to Talbot Street, I don't see how you can say that as most traffic would likely continue from Walnut down to Stanley. Why would you go down to Walnut when you come up the hill and you can go straight through? I really think that should be looked at, and we should be doing it. And the other part about the condition of, just a sec. There's not really any concrete information to say this will be done, like this Walnut Street. Walnut Street's a mess. I mean, they put in asphalt down the one side, snow plows rip it up, that whole street's bad. I think somewhere in the report it should say, we're going to do something to Walnut Street when this is all done. New curbs, new sidewalks. New lighting down there. So anyway, it just looks like the same old report. I certainly support opening up Church Street. I don't think that's, in my mind, a big issue. I come by there all the time. I have to go down to Walnut Street or down to, the first street on the right anyway, and you can't just zing right through. So I think some of the traffic would be taken off of Walnut and St. Anne's and people coming around that way. But anyway, it looks like the same old report, not much changes, and the public aren't asking for much. But anyway, I think there should be some definite response to some of those things that need to be done, like doing Walnut Street, doing Church Street. So just my thoughts. So, thank you.
Further questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Are there any opposed? That's carried.
Next three items are from the Committee of Adjustment. First is notice of a public meeting to take place on February the 12th at 10 a.m. And this is regarding an application for consent by Raymond Allway to sever the property at 18 McIntyre from the property at 18.5 to 20 McIntyre, which had previously merged on title. The next one is notice of a decision received from the committee regarding the property at 3 Regent Street, and that relates to driveway width, driveway area, deck, and exterior stairs on the south side of the dwelling. The last item under this committee is a notice of a decision for the property at 1063 Talbot Street, and it's to facilitate a lease agreement exceeding 21 years for the existing Canadian Tire gas bar area. Your Worship, unless there's any further items from the members for this committee, we'll now move into community engagement and services. Nothing on the agenda at this time, unless there are any items from the members.
Seeing none.
We'll now move into infrastructure and civic operations. First item relates to the Ryan Davies Project Aquatic Safety Audit. I have a motion that report PR 0226 relating to the Ryan Davies Project Aquatic Safety Audit be received for information. And further, the council approve the installation of life-saving stations and associated safety signage at Lake Margaret, Pinafore Lake, and Waterworks Park as outlined in Report PR 0226. And further, the council approve the installation of commemorative signage recognizing Ryan Davies in connection with the city's waterfront safety initiative. Moved by Councillor Clark, seconded by Councillor Baldwin Sands.
Questions or comments? Councillor Baldwin Sands?
Thank you. This has been a passion of mine for a very long time. And to see this report here tonight, I am very grateful. I'm hoping that I have the opportunity to request that the author of the report come and provide comments. And after that is done, would like comments too from the fire chief as well.
Through your worship, thank you to Councillor Baldwin Sands. Just to note, before we get into discussion, there's a reference to the Life Saving Society donating a complete life-saving station that was intended to reference the Elgin County Drowning Prevention Coalition rather than a donation commitment coming from the Life Saving Society. This clarification does not change the recommendation of the report. But we also wanted to clarify that when we reference the term PFD, that it is noted in the bylaw, which is in the next report, that the PFD, which states a personal flotation device, means an approved personal flotation device or life jacket pursuant to the Canada Small Vessel Regulations. So we want to make sure that by noting PFD, we are compliant with all flotation and rescue equipment, and that it's captured and aligns with accepted water rescue best practices. So the term that we use, PFD, also allows for the bylaw to continue to cover any improvements of personal flotation devices without us having to come back to council for net it to the bylaw.
Great. You wanted the fire chief on this too, please? And we don't get enough fire chiefs, so I'm glad you've asked.
Through you, your worship, to Councillor Baldwin Sands and for Adrian putting this report together. Everything in this report, the Ryan Davies report, is very reflective on the messaging that we need to be out there. Having been there that day for that episode is something you'll always remember and never forget. Some of the things that are put in place and some of the recommendations in there is the what 3 words. That's something we can get together. When we get together with leadership, we can talk about how we dole that out into the city and educate people on what 3 words and how it works. And it's pretty amazing that even in this square, you can type in what 3 words into the app, and it'll give you 3 words, and that will triangulate to our dispatch of exactly where you are to the longitude, latitude. As far as the recommendations for the spots, those spots are great, and the recommendations of what to have at those with the reach pole and the buoy. When we were trained for life safety, for water rescue, ice rescue, one of the common themes was reach, throw, row, and go. That's always the first thing. The first thing you want to do, you want to encourage self-rescue for the first thing. You want to talk to people, get them, get their mind off of what's happening. You're talking to them. You're trying to reach with the life pole. So it's a 24-foot pole or 8-meter pole with a thing. So you're trying to reach for the person. As you're trying to, if that's out of the range, you're throwing the 24-foot buoy out to them with a rope. And then all this time, we're on our way with our boat and everything else. And you're doing whatever you can. So these are all the measures that Adrian and her team put in this, and the Ryan Davies report directly reflect all the life-saving measures that the Ontario and safety, water safety people have put into place. And we're just reiterating those things that we're going to do, and then educating the public further on the safety around water and the safety around ice too. We're constantly telling people no ice is safe ice. Stay off, even though it's been super cold. Stay off the ice. It's not recommended. But these are the things. And then with Adrian and her team putting this together is a great, move forward around the areas that we do have water.
Further, Councillor Baldwin Sands?
Just a further comment, I'm very appreciative of the teamwork that we have here in our city in regards to increasing public safety. The level of communication, the level of education, and the level of sharing information out with the public has been paramount to making sure that this has come to the fruition that it has. And I appreciate all city departments who have worked on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Herbert?
Thank you to the chief. Has there been, and this is outside the box, has there been ever any thought of leaving a boat at each of the sites? Because there's always people around usually where they could, I don't mean a big cabin cruiser, but just a small rowboat where somebody could actually come. You're coming with probably a motorized boat, right? You know, I don't know. I'm just thinking, was there any thought in that, in your
Through
discussion?
you, your worship, to Councillor Herbert. You can throw whatever you want at these situations. Ideally, that's not ideal because you don't want untrained people utilizing boats, right? Again, you're getting into what happens is in when we're trained in life safety, when you get to them, how are you going to rescue? You have to be, there's a certain way. You have to be in full flotation. You have to have a helmet on because the first instinct of anybody drowning is to grasp onto you and hold on for help. And that pulls you, and now you have multiple victims in the water. Great idea, but it's really not, ideal for each situation. We're coming with a boat with a motor. We're also coming with a boat that's inflatable, that we can go out, that has something if we have to pull somebody out of the water. We don't have to pull them up and over the bow or the ledges. We can pull them up through the boat and onto a platform, and then they're safe. Our guys are safe. They're tied off, and it's a whole safety thing. So hopefully that answers your question, Councilor. You're correct, Councilor.
Thank you. Councillor Gibson?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a comment. I just want to say that when this first came about in May, I did vote against it, but I was, because I wasn't too sure exactly what was what was being asked, but when I did a little bit of investigation on my own, and I certainly appreciate the update information on here, and I'm in favor of what's being done. Adrian and the team went all out and above most municipalities. I'm thinking of Tilsonburg for one area that I was speaking to a few people there, and they were certainly appreciative when they had their lifesaver boys out. They had a few great saves, unfortunately. Or not unfortunately, but fortunately they were saved. It would have been a different scenario if there wasn't something there to help. So I'd just like to say I certainly will be agreeing to your motions today. Thank you.
Yep. Will you turn on your microphone so the world can hear you this time?
Sorry. Question for Adrian. Thanks. I'll come back this way. I have a loud voice anyway. So thank you for the report. Is this a phased in? You have 3 different sites. Are you starting this year doing one site or doing all 3 sites, or do you just kind of phase them in year after year?
Yeah, through your worship to Councillor Herbert, thank you for the question. It's our intention to put everything in this spring so that everything is complete.
Okay. Further questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Great work.
The next item relates to updates to the Parks Bylaw 96-2019 relating to water safety and drone use. I have a motion that report PR 0326 relating to updates to Parks Bylaw 96-2019 relating to water safety and drone use be received for information, and further, council authorize the preparation of a bylaw to approve the proposed amendments to Parks Bylaw 96-2019 as outlined in the amended bylaw attached to report PR 0326. Moved by Councillor Kohler, seconded by Councillor Clark.
Questions or comments? Councillor Gibson, then Councillor Rymal.
Thank you, Worship. Actually, it's a 2-part question, if I may ask. So the you're on the personal flotation devices, in your paragraph there, there's a small line there where it's, no person shall enter, board, or remain on the watercraft on the lake, river, pond, waterway within the city. Would that be a signage put up at each of those locations, just to be an informative information kind of thing, to let people know that it's really a bylaw, not only by us, but also by the provincial? And the second question is in regards to the drones. I noticed last summer we had a couple of drones over our pool area at JC's Pool. It butts up to my yard. And I was just wondering if there's a way of reporting it, and other than maybe just calling the police, or do we call the business line for the police? Because it really is an emergency, but it is concerning because you don't know who's actually flying a drone over a pool area, especially during the time when people are in there swimming. Thank you.
Adrian?
Through your worship, to Councillor Gibson, certainly as part of the installation for the life-saving stations around Lake Margaret, Pinafore, and Waterworks, there will be an inclusion there regarding the reference to the bylaw. So we'll make sure that people are aware of that. Additionally, we can, communicate through the communications team and get that out on the social medias as well as a regular post. And then as for the drones, I would reach out to, you can speak directly there to staff and they can contact bylaw. Bylaw would be the one that would enforce it. And it would be more so because there is that provision in the bylaw about the use of small drones. My concern would be more so that we don't allow pictures being taken without permission. And so I think that's what we would speak to them about, and, try to determine who's using it. If it's just a kid that's at the pool, then there's no big deal. But, we have been getting a lot of inquiries about proper drone use in our parks, and that's why we brought it into the bylaw, just so there's some confirmation there.
If I can just add, we have a counselor called Gibson who's just been perfect lately at telling people to use our customer service line and our customer service website. And that would be a great way to be reporting exactly what you're asking. So if you could talk to Rose. I'm being funny tonight. Councillor Raimo?
Thank you for the bylaw. It's just with the PFD, it's just, how do you monitor? Like, I don't want to be someone calling the police all the time because, oh, someone's out there with a pool noodle under their arms, that's their life jacket. Because I know we've written things on signs like, no smoking in the parks, dogs on leash, and people just, ignore them. So I just hate for this to be something else. And I'm sure the police don't want to have a call every time someone sees someone out there, because there's a lot of activity of people walking around the lake, and people looking out and seeing someone there without a life vest on.
Who wants it? Kevin, all right?
Through the mayor to Councillor Raimo. So similar to other bylaws of the city, bylaw enforcement is on a complaint basis. So we would rely on the public to provide us that notification, so then our bylaw officers can be dispatched to that location and enforce as needed. As the report indicates, we would be looking to enforce through public education first before escalating.
Adrian?
So I'd just like to add to that we have a contact with the Ministry of Natural Resources, and they are also able to enforce the wearing of life jackets and are able to apply fines if people don't have proper life-saving PFDs in their boats. So that, and they do regular monitoring of our waterways for fishing infractions and for different things. So this would be also included in their patrols.
Councillor Gibson?
Adrian, one more question on that. So as you indicate, the MNR visit quite often our waterways. Would they also contact the city or you, the department, if there was any problems with our flotation stations at all?
Through your worship to Councillor Gibson, we will make sure through staff that those are inspected on a regular basis. But like I said, we are in regular contact with the rep, and so I'm sure if he notices anything, he'll let us know. But staff will make sure that we're proactive in ensuring that they're in good shape.
Okay. Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item relates to Woodworth Avenue Reconstruction Tender Award. I have a motion that report ES 0226 relating to the Woodworth Avenue Reconstruction Tender 2025-041 award be received for information, and further the council award tender 2025-041 to JR Civil Infrastructures Limited in the amount of $4,656,913, excluding HST. And further, the council direct that bylaw be prepared for its consideration to amend traffic and parking bylaw 45-89. Moved by Councillor Herbert, second by Councillor Rymel.
Questions or comments? Councillor Clark.
Well, it's just gratifying to see that the budget work that we did so early in the cycle is proving to save us a lot of money. And we've really got some competitive prices here. And from the money that was allocated to the project to what the contract's coming in is a positive for the city. So again, it shows that keeping and modifying our budget cycle is proving to be very beneficial.
Thank you, Gary. Councillor Herbert.
Thank you, Worship. It's just amazing how the top two bids are close, but if you go from number 1 to number 6, it's almost $4 million difference for the same project. I don't understand how it can be that far apart. Not busy, or I don't know.
Well, I think we share this with you every time you ask that, but there are some that will bid on a project at the highest rate, but if they were to get it, then it's worth their doing. But it's not, perhaps they aren't as anxious to get the work. Might be a better way to put it. Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
No further items on the agenda for this particular committee unless there are any items from the members. And seeing none, Your Worship, we'll now move into corporate governance and administration. First item relates to a 2025 summary of council meetings. I have a motion that report CC 0126 relating to the council meetings 2025 summary be received for information. Moved by Councillor Rymel, second by Councillor Taylor.
Okay. It's my understanding John has about a 45-minute speech on this report, so. Apparently not. Questions or comments from council? Councillor Wookie.
Thanks, Your Worship. Are you going to send this to Mayor Morgan?
Yeah. I have to say thank you for the report, because last year when we did this report, it gave me some very good ammunition for other municipalities that hold some 8 and 9 hour meetings on most of their council nights, and we do not. So again, team, way to go. This really shows that we can get great big things done in our community without having to spend 8 hours doing it on a Monday night. So thank you very much. So the answer is yes. I will be specifically sharing it with Mayor Morgan, but other mayors around us too. Further questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you for the great report.
Next item relates to the 2025 corporate customer service update. I have a motion that report CC 0226 relating to the 2025 corporate customer service update be received for information. Moved by Councillor Taylor, seconded by Councillor Rymel.
Questions or comments? Councillor Gibson, you get it first because you're my customer service favorite.
Just wow, I love it. I wish there was more, because truly I think it's one of the best things, the best we have going here at in our community is having the customer service. I know sometimes we feel like we could personally answer, but you know, it's better from the horse's mouth. So I'm very impressed. Thank you to the staff in the clerk's office and the customer service office for taking on such a great load. And I'm sure the staff is really glad that it does, because it kind of siphons out some of the workload for them to figure out what they're going to do first and next, because not everything has to be done at ASAP, but it does get done. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kohler, did I see your hand?
Thanks, Your Worship. Just a comment. As Councillor Gibson says, this is a great program. I know, especially over the years as we've developed it and continued to improve it. Just want to see better buy-in and hopefully get 100% involvement from staff, because then that'll keep us out of the equation and city manager out of the equation too. Because at the end of the day, if the tool is used properly, it will be really
Right.
effective.
Councillor Clark?
Thank you. I just wondering how upper management uses the data to continue to improve the departments and the work that they do. I'm just wondering if do we compare this from year to year to see where the pressure points are, or is it something that, is typically, depends on a bad storm or, a certain major event happening that skews these, or is the different categories kind of similar year to year in terms of complaints?
I'll go to the city manager on it first, and then she can point out which director she thinks is, no, never mind, go ahead.
Great. Thank you, Your Worship. And through you to Councillor Clark. Admittedly, senior leadership team has not done that exercise lately, although it's something that we can continue to do. I do know one thing that we are looking at is looking at the different complaints and the data and then forming better communications around those elements, for instance. So as we update a new website in 2026, looking at kind of those pressure points, because often we can resolve like customer service inquiries through better communication, making that more easily accessible and creating, workflows and forms to better address those. And certainly I think looking at service alignment to ensure that the customer service team is working more closely with the various service areas to improve response time.
If I could just add to that, look, we've got a couple great examples. There's been like the winter from hell, and our snow removal people have been doing an excellent job and getting a lot of accolades themselves on social media. But it also gives us an opportunity through customer service and through our own communications people to talk about what is a level 2 street, a level 3 street, a 4, when will sidewalks be done at what depth, when is salt applied? And so we're doing a lot of education out there because of what we're also hearing from the general public. So, but anytime we can brag about how great our roads team has been this winter, way to go. It's not been an easy one. So we appreciate it. It helps the phone calls not come through my phone late at night too. So perfect. But the customer service piece, Councillor Gibson said it, Councillor Kohler is saying how far we've gone in about a 5-year period of time or a 6-year period of time of really moving individual requests through our own customer service system rather than, but it still happens. If you follow, I forget the name of it, St. Thomas something on social media. But if you follow it, there's 14 different ways somebody should report a pothole they found, right? And what we're trying to say, there's one way to report a pothole, and it's to call customer service or to use an email to customer service or a bylaw infraction or whatever else it might be. And the more we can set through there, the better we will be able to track the key performance indicators of each of the departments and what's coming back. So I thank you all, council, you all, the directors, for helping us really get this into a compressed system. But I thank even better the people at home that now realize and often get there even before Councillor Gibson to say, hey, why don't you message customer service about your issue and you're bound to get it solved. So we all do it too. It works perfect. Further questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item relates to election signs on municipal road allowances. I have a motion that report CC 0326 relating to election signs on municipal road allowances be received for information, and further the council authorize the preparation of a bylaw amendment to bylaw 41-2025 to prohibit the placement of election signs on municipal road allowances, and further the council authorize the amendment of the City of St. Thomas use of city resources during an election period policy to remove the exception for election signs on road allowances. Moved by Councillor Kohler, second by Councillor Reimel.
Questions or comments? Councillor Herbert?
Thank you, Your Worship. Well, this was quite the read for sure. But anyway, a number way down in the report, it says temporary advertising signs on private property. On private property must conform to the bylaw, et cetera, but can only be installed with written permission of the property owner.
Right.
So every time I want to put it on a private property, I have to get permission from the written permission, Or can I just, like, if I want to put it on my brother's lawn, that's that's his property. Do I need written permission to put it on? Is that what that's saying? Or am I misreading it somehow?
Well, unless you think your brother is going to call by law.
No, well, obviously he's not going to,
Right.
but I just use that as an example.
Right.
It says I must receive written permission. So do I have to have that documentation somewhere? Never going to happen, I guess, but that's what it says. I need written permission. Anyway,
So if you had to go back and get it from that that house owner,
yeah,
right, then I think you would be able to.
that's fine. Okay.
I guess the issue that's being discussed is there was a number of complaints during not just municipal elections, but federal and provincial also, where because the boulevard near the road is not the person's property, it's ours. People were putting signs there even though the homeowner had not asked for a sign. And that caused angst between the two, the person who's running for an office or the people who own the property. This just removes municipal road allowances from that. And so that if you see a sign on someone's lawn, it's because they would like that person to probably hold office. And so it just removes what used to be 2 or 3 corners in this community that were just the most popular ones to get on, but it was a municipally owned right-of-way. Now we're saying that, but it's also still in front of someone else's house, right? And they're going, wait, I don't like that person. Why do I have to put up with their sign on the front of my property just because it's a municipal boulevard? So this clears up some of the things we've been asked in previous elections. Further questions or comments? Councillor Clark.
So I was kind of puzzled at the request for written confirmation. So I just wanted to get that clarified. Anybody wanting to assign on someone's lawn has to have written permission? Is that what we're saying?
I guess that's what the bylaw is saying, Madam Clerk.
Your worship, maybe we could hear from the CBO because that relates to any advertising signs, not
Yeah,
just
that's-
election signs.
That's why I thought it was confusing. I thought it was more
Right.
paid advertising signs, not election signs.
So if you wanted to put the local aquarium sign on your lawn as an advertising for their business, you'd have to have something in writing to do it. Is that what, Enzo?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship.
You don't get to be our guest speaker very often.
No, not too often.
No.
So appreciate that. But yes, through you to Councillor Clark. Yeah, I think that was the intention. And if we're opening up the bylaw, I can easily put a small carve out that says with the exception of temporary election signs. Because the intention was more for an advertising sign for a business or short-term advertising like that.
Okay. Good. That help you too, Jim? Okay. Your brother's still not going to let your sign there, so it's. Further questions or comments on this change to the bylaw? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
That concludes the items for this committee, unless there are any items from the members. Your worship, seeing none, council will now reconvene into regular session. I have a motion that the recommendations, directions, and actions of council and committee of the whole, as recorded in the minutes of this date, be confirmed, ratified, and adopted. Moved by Councillor Baldwin-Sands, seconded by Councillor Gibson.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next, we move into reports of committees. One report this evening relating to a heritage alteration permit for the property at 423 Talbot Street. I have a motion that report MHC 0126 relating to the heritage alteration permit for 423 Talbot Street be received for information, and further the council issue a heritage alteration permit for the property at 423 Talbot Street relating to application HAP 0126. Moved by Councillor Rymal, seconded by Councillor Clark.
Questions or comments on the heritage report? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next, we move into communications. First item is a request for a proclamation and lighting of Jumbo from the Canadian Congenital Heart Alliance. I have a motion that Council of the City of St. Thomas proclaim February the 7th to 14th, 2026 as Congenital Heart Disease Awareness Week in the City of St. Thomas. And further, that the Jumbo Monument be lit in red from February the 7th to 14th, 2026. Moved by Councillor Herbert, seconded by Councillor Taylor.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item is a request for a proclamation and flag raising from Girl Guides. I have motion that Council of the City of St. Thomas proclaim February the 22nd, 2026 as Thinking Day in the City of St. Thomas, and further that the Girl Guides of Canada flag be flown at City Hall from February the 23rd to March the 1st, 2026. Moved by Councillor Gibson, second by Councillor Clark.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item is a request for a proclamation from the Canadian Amyloidosis Support Network. I have motion that Council of the City of St. Thomas proclaim March 2026 as Amyloidosis Awareness Month in the City of St. Thomas. Moved by Councillor Taylor, seconded by Councillor Rymal.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item is a request for flag raising from the Parkinson Society of Southwestern Ontario. A motion that the Parkinson Society flag be flown at City Hall from April 10th to 17th in support of Parkinson's Awareness Month. Moved by Councillor Kohler, seconded by Councillor Gibson.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item is a request for jumbo lighting from Lupus, Ontario. I have a motion that the Jumbo Monument be lit in purple on May 10th, 2026 in recognition of Lupus Awareness Day. Moved by Councillor Herbert, second by Councillor Rymal.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item relates to two requests from the Kinsman Club of St. Thomas. The first is for a bylaw exemption, and the second is for use of the Joe Thornton Community Center parking lot. With respect to the bylaw exemption, I have a motion that the letter received from Cam Walters of the Kinsman Club requesting an exemption from bylaw 23-2002 relating to fees associated with the sale of fireworks from May the 12th to 19th and June 24th to July 1st be referred to the Treasury Department for a report. Moved by Councillor Clark, seconded by Councillor Gibson.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
And the second motion that the letter received from Cam Walters from the Kinsman Club requesting permission to store a trailer in the Joe Thornton Community Center parking lot from May 22nd to June 20th, 2026 be referred to the Parks and Recreation Department for a report. Moved by Councillor Rymal, seconded by Councillor Clark.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item is a letter received from Ben Van Meppelen-Skepink at East Street requesting recycling pickup for small businesses in St. Thomas. Your Worship, if the members are interested in directing that a report be prepared, I do have a motion available to refer it to Environmental Services for a report. A move by Councillor Herbert. A second by Councillor Gibson.
Okay, questions or comments? On the referral to staff, with the changes in recycling, many small businesses are asking us, what happened to mine? And so it'd be nice if we could have just the department report back what it might take to do more or why we won't do more. Further questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of the referral? Any opposed? That's carried.
Next item is a copy of a letter addressed to the Premier of Ontario and the Minister of Transportation from the municipalities of North Grenville, Merrickville, Wolford Village, OPP Detachment Board. This is relating to the implementation of stop arm camera systems on school buses. Next item, also a letter received from the Township of Southgate regarding proposed amendments to the Ontario Municipal Employees Retirement System governance structure under Bill 68, the Plan to Protect Ontario Act 2025. Next item is a letter received from the town of Fort Francis regarding the establishment of an Ontario Airport Capital Assistance Program. Next item is notice received from the Kettle Creek Conservation Authority regarding the authority's 2026 municipal levy apportionment. Next item is a memorandum received from the Ministry of the Attorney General regarding amendments to the Liquor Licensing Control Act to expand the eligibility for tailgate or bring your own event permits. Just for the members' information, the memo will be forwarded to Special Events Committee. And if the members wish to receive any further information, we can have a motion to direct that a report be prepared. We'll refer it to administration.
Okay, Councillor Clark?
I think we need more information on that item. Definitely.
I know I received the letter, forwarded it to special events, but we haven't had a meeting to talk about it yet. So my suggestion was to go this route, go to special events where we can talk about it with the whole special events team and then report something back to council. If you're okay with that, Chair, I didn't mean to step on your authority to do that, but I thought, where am I putting this? I don't want it on my desk. So is that okay? Is that what we're saying, Madam Clerk?
Your Worship, I was suggesting that it could be forwarded to administration. If the members want to hear from the committee, I mean, I suppose the committee could make its remarks known to administration and it could be included.
I'd rather hear from staff first.
Okay.
Which is what your request.
All right.
Your Worship, I just need a seconder for that motion to direct. Councillor Gibson, thank you.
Right. Questions or comments on it going to administration, then on to special events and coming back? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item is a letter received from the Minister of Agriculture, Food and Agribusiness regarding the 2026 Agricultural Impact Assessment Guidance Documents, which is available on the province's website. The next item is a letter received from Solicitor General and the Honorable Rob Black, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, regarding Police Service Board budgeting in municipalities with strong mayor powers. The last item is correspondence received from the Municipal Property Assessment Corporation regarding the corporation's 2025 Municipal Partnership Report, and that's available on MPAC's website. Your Worship, unless there are any further items under petitions and communications, we'll now move into unfinished business of council.
Anything from any member on unfinished business? Seeing none.
We'll now move into new business of council.
Councillor Kohler.
Thanks, Your Worship. Some time ago, the Cemetery Board released a statement that they've engaged legal a team to start the abandonment process. I'm just curious as to when we're going to have a report and start our discussion on how we're going to take that over and how we're going to prepare for that, because I know many people are waiting on that and pretty excited to the fact that the municipality will be taking it over because they're not really happy with the current condition of the cemetery. So I'd like to know when that's going to come forward and be ahead of it instead of just waiting for the abandonment process and then reacting to it afterwards.
Well, I'll certainly clarify that we're not just doing that, because we've been having some ongoing discussion, certainly cost discussions and how and who would take over what. We're not at a conclusion to it yet. The treasurer and the city manager and I talked last week to a couple of members of the cemetery board. We'd like to help them in whatever way we can. We'd like to make sure that the cemeteries are operated in the way they're supposed to be, and we'd like it not to become an onus on the city's finances for us to have to take on more than we should either. It seems like another kind of weird downloading from the province, because the province allows it to occur. So we're having those discussions with province, with the cemetery board, with ourselves, and what other municipalities are also doing from a cemetery abandonment point of view. And we will be very clearly bringing it back here before a final decision is made.
Okay, I look forward to that. So no funds will be released to them without anything coming to council first, right?
Well, I can't say that because we already have been giving funds to them each year as part of the large granting process that this council's agreed to, and it was in our budget. We've asked for their financial statements, as we've asked for financial statements of each of the other groups that give us a large thing. Some of those funds may be, I can't promise you none would be released, but we'll be fiscally prudent and not go over that amount until we come back to council. Councillor Clark?
Thanks. My understanding that it's one corporation that operates two separate sites. And so will we be getting legal counsel as to if they're trying to abandon the operation? We've been the ones supporting them with an operation that is filling up, whereas Central Elgin down the road has an asset there where there is more room to expand or to continue to run that business. And yet they have not been supporting that corporation. So I want to make sure that we get some legal counsel as to what the legalities are for them in terms of can they abandon one and we get stuck with the costs there. You know, my way of thinking, just as a layman, it is one corporation, and it's got assets and it's got liabilities.
Right.
And certainly it should be fair in how this is winded down. So I'm just hoping that when you say you're having talks with them, that we also get legal advice.
City Manager?
Sure. Through your worship to Councillor Clark and Councillor Kohler as well, city staff have been engaged with legal counsel in these discussions. We are waiting for kind of formal written communication, and then we will bring that back to council as soon as it's received, a more fulsome report. The mayor referenced the treasurer and I, however, I can confirm that the municipal clerk, director of HR, and our director of Parks and Recreation have all been working on this file. And so we hope to bring a complete report at an upcoming meeting.
With a lot of those, is this fair kind of questions answered. Councillor Herbert?
Thank you, Worship. Well, we all know today was Groundhog Day.
Yes.
And the biggest crowd I've seen, and we showed up about 7:30 minus 19. It was Councillor Gibson and Councillor Taylor, myself. And you made a nice speech to everybody, so maybe you'd like to comment on it, what you thought. Did the groundhog come out in that cold weather, or did the groundhog not come out?
Well, she did. Sally, St. Thomas Sally, the groundhog that we have in our municipality, did share with the mayor this morning that she saw her shadow, and that therefore meant 6 more weeks of winter, but we're pretty used to it right now. And it was a lot of fun, but on top of that, it's kind of a fun thing. About 4 years ago, a number of us went up to Wyerton for Groundhog Day to see what they do there, and could we find a winter event here in St. Thomas. But it was great to see a number of councillors out there this morning and a number of members of the public, which was quite fun. I kept reminding them that in Wyerton they have pre-dawn fireworks, but apparently we're not yet up for that. It just was a unique thing, and it was as cold as it's ever been for Groundhog Day out there this morning. So, but I would like to thank Councillor Taylor and yourself and Councillor Gibson for coming, and Councillor Peters did wander across from his house too. So we did have we had a good group out there this morning, plus a number of regular people who thought this would be fun to come out and see our groundhog share her views. So. Yeah. My favorite one is the Nova Scotia one today. Couldn't hold their groundhog event because of the weather. Right? I guess it's going to have winter a little while longer. Councillor Kohler, did I see your hand?
Yes, sorry, Your Worship. This is on the previous previous topic, and I know that council had approved a budget that had a line item in there for the cemetery, but that was also prior to them releasing the fact that they were going to engage in the abandonment. So the last thing I would like to see is us give them money and then they proceed with the abandonment, and then we're forced to take it over. So I would like to, and if it takes council's direction, but hopefully it doesn't, but I would like to see that no monies be released until a report comes back to council so we know what's going on, because I don't want to see our donation given out and then the abandonment process be undertaken and we end up getting it back and we've already put money out for that process. So that's what I'd like to see, is that we get a report back prior to any of those donation funds being released.
I'm not certain we can promise that, but we're at the trying to decide what was enclosed, what was in what I can share is we're working our best deal with the board that is currently responsible for the cemeteries. And We'd like it so that we don't lose continuation of service, but we also get the best deal for the city of St. Thomas.
No, I think through that discussion, that service needs to be whether we're getting a good service or not, because I know many of us are getting the calls right now because we do give money and people have loved ones buried there and they're not getting the service that is required. So I think that whole discussion needs to take place prior to us funding a service that's not being provided properly either. So hopefully we can have that before.
Councillor Clark, in addition?
Well, just could we ask the city treasurer whether those funds have flowed to the cemetery board or whether they haven't yet?
Mr. Treasurer?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We've advanced 3 months of operating grant for the reason being that cash flow is going to be an immediate requirement for the cemetery board. It was used to buy us time to deliberate the decision, ultimately, if the city was okay with the abandonment or not. So yes, those funds have already been transferred.
Further questions or comments on that topic or any other new business? Point out that the 5th of this week, the 5th of February, is Optimist Day. And we have a couple of optimists in our group, and they're going to take care of the flag raising on a really cold day out front. You can move inside to the council chambers if you feel you. But I know you're optimists, so I know what you're going to do. So thank you, Councillor Taylor, Councillor Clark, for taking care of that for me. I'm away in Ottawa that day.
Your worship, if there's no further items, so move along through the agenda. No public notice or notices of motion this evening. There is a need to move into closed session. I have a motion that this meeting be closed to deal with a trade secret or scientific, technical, commercial, financial, or labor relations information supplied in confidence to the municipality, which, if disclosed, could reasonably be expected to prejudice significantly the competitive position or interfere significantly with the contractual or other negotiations of a person, group of persons, or organization. A trade secret or scientific, technical, commercial, or financial information that belongs to the municipality and has monetary value or potential monetary value. 3, labor relations matters, and 2, personal matters about identifiable individuals. Moved by Councillor Reimel, second by Councillor Taylor.
Call for discussion, and then before we vote, I'll share what I usually do. Any discussion on going in closed? None. We will be going into closed session now. We'll go over to room 304 and discuss the matters that the clerk has brought forward for you watching from our gallery or from at home. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. We'll only come back and go into open session in order to vote on the bylaws that will pass tonight, or anything that happens in closed session we'll need to also discuss, and we will do that in open session once we come back here, and we will adjourn and go home. So thank you for joining us tonight, and thank you for being a part of the governance of the City of St. Thomas. So all in favor in closed session? Any opposed? Carried? We are in closed.
Your worship, at this time, I have a motion that council rise from closed session. Moved by Councillor Baldwin-Sands, seconded by Councillor Gibson.
Questions or comments on rising? Seeing none, all those in favor? Are there any opposed? That is carried. We have risen.
Thank you, Your Worship. Our next topic is bylaws. I have a motion that leave be granted to bring in the bylaws. Moved by Councillor Reimel, seconded by Councillor Herbert.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried.
I have a motion by Councillor Reimel, seconded by Councillor Herbert, that the bylaws be now read a first time, referred to council and committee of the whole, and read a second time.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
First bylaw, please.
First bylaw is a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the council meeting held on the 2nd day of February, 2026.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Next bylaw, please.
Second bylaw is a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute and affix the seal of the corporation to a certain agreement between the city and the Tiny Tots Co-op Nursery School of Aldborough, Inc. This is an amending agreement for early on programs and services.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Next bylaw, please.
Third bylaw is a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute and affix the seal of the corporation to a certain agreement between the city and YMCA of Southwestern Ontario, an amending agreement under the early on programs and services.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Next bylaw, please.
The fourth bylaw is a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute and affix the seal of the corporation to a certain agreement between the city and His Majesty the King in right of Canada as represented by the Minister of Infrastructure and Communities. This relates to the Canada Public Transit Fund.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Next bylaw, please.
Fifth bylaw is a bylaw to provide for the operation and rules of procedure of the Site Plan Control Committee.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Next bylaw, please.
Sixth bylaw is a bylaw to establish certain site plan control operations under Section 41 of the Planning Act.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Next bylaw, please.
Seventh bylaw is a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute and affix the seal of the corporation to a certain agreement between the city and 161-1905 Ontario Limited. This relates to McGregor Farm Phase 2B, 21 lots for single detached dwellings.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Next bylaw, please.
Eighth bylaw is a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute and affix the seal of the corporation to a certain agreement between the city and Shawside Development Limited. This relates to Shaw Valley Phase 8, 22 lots for single detached dwellings.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Last bylaw, please.
Ninth and final bylaw added this evening is a bylaw to appoint an acting director of social services for the city of St. Thomas, that being Danielle Nielsen.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Your worship, arise and report the successful passing of 9 bylaws.
Good work.
I have a motion by Councillor Reimel, seconded by Councillor Herbert, that the report of council and committee of the whole on the 9 bylaws be received and adopted. The same be read a third time, engrossed, signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed and numbered.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Are there any opposed? That is carried.
Your worship, no further items for the open session of council. At this time, I have a motion for adjournment by Councillor Baldwin Sands, seconded by Councillor Gibson.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Are there any opposed? That is carried. Great night. Good work.